Hello everyone, welcome to this another video of this channel. I'm Abhishek Verma and you are watching Spring Basics with Spring Boot series. In today's video, we are going to see what is scope in Spring Boot. Then we will see what are the various types of scopes in Spring Boot. And at the end, we will try to implement the scope in a Spring Boot code. Besides this, what you guys need to do is that you need to comment in between so that we can understand whether you are getting my point or not. Also, you need to like the video, share it with your friends and comment on the video so that we can increase our community. So let's get started. Now first of all, let's try to understand what do we mean by scopes here. So a scope defines the life cycle and visibility of a bean using @scope annotation. So generally, I guess till now in Java, you have heard about scope while working with the variables. So we say that the scope of this variable is local within a method only, or the scope is of this particular variable is for the whole class. Yeah. Same way here also, when we are asking the Spring to create beans for us, then there also some scopes are defined. By default, there exists a particular scope that also we will see in some time, but if required, we can change the scope with the help of @scope annotation. Now there are two main types of scopes in Spring which you can use in any application, and believe me, in today's application also, in today's video also, I will be able to show you those two scopes. Beside this, there are four other types of scopes, and the point is that those four other types of scope can be used in the web application only. So that means out of these total 6 scopes, today we are going to learn about only 2 scopes with the help of code. Theoretically, I'll explain all these 6 scopes to you so that if required you can give answer for any interview. The moment we will later on move towards the Spring REST, at that time I may try to show you those other 4 scopes. So let's start. So the first one is Singleton scope. Now this Singleton is something like a default scope. So when you don't mention any scope, by default it is always Singleton only. Like here you can see the example. So you can see this is just a service class. Owner service AMPL, I'm mentioning @service, and I haven't mentioned anything about scope here. But then also the default scope is Singleton here, which means that in your complete application, there will be only one instance of the owner service IMPL. It doesn't matter how many number of times you are going to auto-wire the owner service, but only one instance will be created and it will get destroyed when your application is going to shut down. We will very soon see this with the help of code also. Now the next one is prototype. Now for prototype, as you can see, is the only difference which you need to do is whatever is your class. So I'm just taking example of this service, but it can be your repository class, controller class, or any other component class, or it can be a bean also. Yes. So there we just need to say @scope prototype. That's the only difference which we need to do. For the first one, you don't need to mention anything. If you wish, then you can say @scope Singleton, but that is not mandatory. But this one is required to mention. Now here the thing is that every time you ask for a bean, maybe you are saying get bean, or maybe you are saying @autowired, a new bean will be provided to you, which means multiple beans for owner service IMPL will be created if you will ask for them. Let's go for the next one. So this next one is the request scope here, and the difference is very simple. So like writing here is not going to be very tough task. You just need to change these names. Now point to be noted is that these names are string here. So you need to ensure that it needs to be written as it is only, and you are not changing any sequence or anything here. Now this request scope is a scope which we can't show in a simple application. Like in today's application, I won't be able to show you the request scope. This can be used only in a web application. Yes, and here what happens is that every time we get a new HTTP request, so a new scope will be created here.
That is the reason that it can be only shown with the web application. So once we will go towards Spring REST, then I'll show you. The moment let's say you are hitting 5 HTTP requests, so 5 different beans will be created in that particular case. The scope will be for a particular request only. Now the next one is session scope. So for session scope, again the rules are simple. You just need to mention the word session here, and this time the thing is that here this instance is created for a complete session. Now within a session there can be 5 HTTP requests also, there can be single HTTP request also, there can be multiple also. This is generally used, let's say when you want to have some stateful resources. You want to store the state of some particular resource, or someone has logged in and then you want to store what that person, what the user is doing. So at that time we can go for the session scope here. The next one is global session. So this global session will be again, so here just a small change, global session, and this is for the global HTTP session. So this is even above your session scope. So request is the minimal one, which is only for one particular HTTP request. Session is for multiple HTTP request, and global session is for multiple HTTP sessions. Hence we say global HTTP session here, or you can even call it for the portlet based web applications. Generally, believe me, you don't need to remember all these as such for your day-to-day coding. So this last one is application scope, and this one is similar to your singleton scope, but the only difference is that here it works for the web application. So in the web application, instead of mentioning it as singleton, you can also mention it as application. Otherwise here also it is for the complete life cycle of your application context. So that is the application scope. So hence we understood that there are 6 kinds of scopes. Out of these 6, only 2 are most important, that is singleton and prototype, because generally you can showcase them in any of your applications. Beside this, request, session, global session, application. So believe me, till now in my 7 years of career, I have never used any of these 4 scopes in any of the application till now. I have worked with multiple client applications. The UI was with the help of mobile also, it was a web application also, but there was never a need came when I need to go for these scopes. The only time when I need these scopes was for the interviews. So just for the interview perspective, I need to remember these 4 extra scopes. Otherwise, first 2 are enough for you, that is singleton and prototype. So same way for you also, believe me, you don't need them, and whenever required at that point of time you can use it. As of now, only learning the definition and how to mention, that is important for you. And as you know that for mentioning, you don't need to do anything much. You just need to say at the rate scope and just use the term whatever you want to use. Just for global session, remember that this S is going to be capital, camel case approach. Now let's directly jump in towards the code and see how to make usage of singleton and the prototype scope here. So now we are in the IDE, and let's start with this demo 9. So as always, I have just copied this demo from the previous demo only. So here I'll just quickly show you these things. So this pom.xml, I have just updated the artifact ID, and there is only one dependency, that is Spring Boot Starter. So you can check out my YouTube short, the link I'll provide you on the top. There I have explained more about what is Spring Boot Starter, what is this Spring Boot Starter parent. So those shorts you can watch for these type of questions. Then going towards here, this application.properties is empty as of now. src test java, there is no package, no class, just empty. Going here, so you see this repository. So this repository interface is again simple as always. This repository IMPL is again simple as always, only one is there. Then coming here to the service. So here till now we used to have only the find owner method here, which used to provide us a string. But now I have added one more method, which is modify owner ID. So what will happen, we can provide some owner ID here, and then that way we can modify the owner ID, because till now you remember we used to have the hard coded owner ID which was there by default, but now onwards we will be able to modify it. If you wish, you can also call it as set owner ID. Then beside this, owner service IMPL. Now here also you see I have auto wired the owner repository. So with the help of this data type, it will be able to inject the dependency. For owner ID, default value is 10 here. So initially when I will execute, owner ID is going to remain 10. Then if I will invoke this method modify owner ID, then it will be changing to that particular value here. Rest again everything is simple here. Then going to this demo. So you remember we discussed about this annotation very clearly in our last video, Spring Boot application, how this comes, what is the purpose of this command line runner. Then we auto wired the owner service. Here I told you that generally we write this much amount of code only, spring application.run. This will start your Spring Boot application. And once you will invoke this run method, internally it invokes this particular run method. This also I have shown you in the previous video. So if you wish, you can check out that video. Now here, today what we are doing is that today is the time when we will take some input from the user. Till now we never took input from the user in this series. So what I'm doing, first of all, I'm taking help of the scanner. So if you are clear with the Java basics, believe me, there also in my Java tutorials, many of the times I've taken the scanner. In the complete Hibernate, JDBC, Maven series, I have taken help of scanner. So same I'm doing here. So here we are making usage of try with resources so that scanner gets closed automatically also. Now here what I'm doing is, first of all, this line will be printed, that what is the owner ID before modifying. Okay, so before modifying the owner ID, how the things look like. Then here I'm printing owner service 1, and post that I'm invoking the method find owner. So now you know that initially when I will invoke this find owner method, it will go here, and here it will take the default value of owner ID as 10. Now since it will be taken, then it will go to repository IMPL and it will say find owner with owner ID 10. Simple. Then after this, we will be taking input from the user, and let's say that user is providing some owner ID. So we will modify it for this owner service 1 only. Then we will again try to print the things. So obviously since now I have changed the owner ID, so when I will invoke the find owner again, so this time here it will print me some different number, whatever that particular owner ID we will provide. And then if there is any exception, it will be caught here and we will just print the message. That is simple. So I hope everything is clear, and now let's execute the same. Till then, let me close all the extra unwanted classes. Only 3 classes will be used today, mostly here, that is this service, this repository, and obviously the demo here. Yeah, and here I'm calling it as owner service 1. Very soon you will come to know why. So let me just start it. As I told you, you can take it from here also, or if you wish, you can run it from here also. So let's start running from here. So here we click, and here you see it goes. So first of all, it is printing this banner, then it has started logging everything. These logs also we will discuss maybe in the next video, not today. Then after this, you see it is printing me owner service IMPL being created. So how many times this owner service bean is getting created? Only once. Why? Because the moment it started this code, it identified that it needs to take help of the owner service here. So first of all, it will go to your owner service IMPL and it will create a bean. Since here it is created with the help of default constructor, that is why this line got printed first. After printing this line, it came to know I need to depend on the owner repository, and hence it went here and it printed owner repository IMPL being created. Then this code came here in this particular run method. It printed this statement before modifying. Then this owner service 1 got printed and it says found owner with owner ID 10. And now it is asking you to enter the owner ID, and see here, if I take my cursor here, now I hope that you can see this icon is still moving. So that means your code is still running. Here also you can see this red, which means your code is still running here. Okay. Now let's give the ID as something like 20 maybe. So this will give, and again it will print after modifying owner ID of owner service 1. So only for this owner we have modified it, and now it is saying found owner with owner ID 20. Now you will say it is simple. Okay, now once everything has finished, so this also has finished, and here also now there is no more red color. So I hope till now everything is going fine. Yeah, we haven't started anything related to scopes as of now. But believe me, when you are not writing anything, by default the scope is singleton. So this owner service IMPL is under the singleton scope. The repository IMPL is under the singleton scope here. Yeah. Now, in order to prove it, what I just mentioned you till now, that singleton scope means irrespective the number of times you will call the bean. So maybe you can call it with the help of get bean, or you can just auto wire it multiple times. Only one instance will be provided. So in order to prove this, what I'll do is I'll copy this statement and I will paste it here. And let's say we will call it as owner service 2. So now I'm going to auto wire it 2 times. So owner service is only 1. Yeah. The IMPL is only 1, but same thing I'm going to auto wire 2 times. Yeah. Now if that is the case, so let's try to use it also. So what we will do is after printing this particular one, so let me just copy it and paste it here. And here let me say it as 2. Here also let me say it as 2. Okay. And same way here also let's print the same thing and let's call it as 2. Okay, that's fine. Now you tell me now what will happen. First of all, since you are auto wiring the owner service 2 times, that means let's assume that till now you forgot what I mentioned you about singleton. Okay, so just assume what it should be doing. Since you are saying owner service 2 times, so it should be creating the owner service bean twice. Yes, for every owner service bean depends on the owner repository. So 2 repository beans also should be created. Very obvious, because first it will go here, it will print this line, then it will go here and it will print the repository line. Then again you are saying auto wired, so again it should go here, it should print this line, again it should go to repository, print this line. So 2 service IMPL, 2 repository IMPL should be created. Then what we are doing, for both of these owner service 1 and 2, we are printing the find owner. So for both of them initial value is 10 only, so that will be printed, and the output should be 10 and 10 for both of them. So let me just do it in this way. So initially I'm assuming that here when I will say it is going to be 10 and 10. So for both of them it will be printing 10. Now what this 10 means, that here when I will execute, the code will go here, it will pick default value 10, and then it will say found owner with owner ID 10, this way. Now we will be just changing it for the owner service 1, not for owner service 2. That one I'm not going to change, only this. So here I will change it to 20. Now when I will print, so for this owner service 1 it should be saying 20, and for this one it should be saying 10, because for owner service 2 you didn't changed, that was a separate bean. Okay, so I hope that is the point. Now let's try to execute and see whether our assumption was right or wrong. Let me just do Control Shift O, Control Shift S. Yeah, and now let's execute the same code again and see whether our assumption was right or wrong. So first of all, our assumption was 2 service IMPL bean, 2 repository bean. Let's check out here. So when we see, you see owner service IMPL got created, then repository got created, and that's it. So irrespective, you are auto wiring it twice, but you are getting these line printed once, which means only one bean of owner service got created, only one bean of owner repository got created here. It doesn't matter how many number of times you are going to auto wire. Reason is because by default scope is singleton here, and singleton in Java, I hope you have learnt it otherwise also for multiple interview questions, and in normal Java we use singleton, that only one instance of that particular thing will be created. Now after this, okay, that assumption of ours was wrong. Now this line got printed, then for owner service 1 you can see it is printing 10, owner service 2 also it is printing 10 here. Yeah, and then enter ID of the owner. So this, so obviously we will be providing here 20, but now you need to tell me that since for owner service 1 and owner service 2, there is only one bean. What do you say? Will it be 20 and 10? Will it be 10 and 10? Or will it be 20 and 20? So you can pause the video, you can think once and tell me that since there is only one bean of owner service, and for owner service 1 only I'm changing the value. Will it also change the value for owner service 2 or not? You need to tell me by pausing it. Then only it will be helpful for you to learn. Yeah. So now let's change the value and see the output. So now you see that it is not printing me 20 and 10. It is actually printing me 20 and 20. So that means this assumption was also wrong. It is printing here 20 for both of them. Now you will say what is interesting, but try to see, maybe you are missing the point. We have only changed the value for owner service 1. We never changed the value for owner service 2. So why did it become 20? The reason it became 20 for owner service 2 also, because you see, owner service 1 and owner service 2 are two instances, but both of them are pointing to one bean only. So maybe these are two different references. Owner service 1 is one reference, owner service 2 is also one reference, but both of them are pointing to a single bean only. So once you will make any change in one of the beans, same will be reflected to other also automatically, because it is singleton. I hope you are getting my point. If not, you can just rewind the video and then you can again check what I have just now told you. Yeah. So this is when we are working with both of the scopes as singleton here by default. So now let's make this as prototype. So what I'll do is I will just say here scope, something like this, and let's say prototype. And this is some very important question also, guys. Okay. So generally when you will go to interview, what happens is that generally we are just preparing what happens with singleton, what happens with prototype, but then they try to provide you some scenarios like this, that there are two beans, one is prototype, one is singleton, then what will happen. So now let's again try to see what will happen in this scenario. Let me explain you this again. So first of all, we are in the demo. Here we are using owner service 2 times. Now the owner service is prototype, but within it the repository is singleton. So now you tell me what will happen. How many beans of service will be created? How many beans of repository will be created? That you need to tell me. So what you will comment me is that you need to comment me something like this in the chat, that it is PS. So PS, I will understand that first one is prototype, second one is singleton, and then you say for PS 2 service, something like this. So let's say 2 service and 1 repo. So like this you need to comment me, so that I will understand whether you are getting my point or not. So for singleton, when both of them were singleton, we saw it was 1 service and 1 repo when both of them were singleton. Now you will tell me what will happen when it is going to be PS. First one is prototype, second one is singleton. So I hope you will be commenting it out. So let's have a look again this time, and let me run it again. So here when we run, you see what is happening. First of all, it comes here, owner service. Now this owner service IMPL bean got created. Then within it, it needs to create a bean for the repository. So that also got created. Then again, I'm saying here owner service auto wired. So you see one more owner service IMPL bean got created. Why? Because there are two owner services, or you can say it is prototype scope. So every time you will ask for a bean or you will say auto wired, a new one will be created. But interesting point is the owner repository. For owner repository, if you see, there is only one bean till now. Why? Because when again it will come to this particular line, it will see that owner repository bean already exists. So this bean is already there, so it will try to reuse, because owner repository is still singleton only. So that's the reason. Then here, this is obvious that initially it will be 10 and 10. Now the point is, now what do you say, what will happen? So when I will just modify the owner ID for owner service 1 as 20, will it also change for owner service 2 or not? Tell me. Remember, this time for owner service there are two beans. So will it be still 2020, 2010 or 1020 or 1010? So let's have a look to this again and let me see 20. So now you see that this time the output is 20 and then 10. So this is your output. First one is 20, then it is 10. Why? Because simple. There are two different beans of owner service. Owner service 1 is referring to the first bean. Owner service 2 is referring to the second bean. You just change value for the first bean. So there is no impact on the second bean, and hence it is still working fine for us in this particular way. Yeah. The point to be noted is two beans for service, one bean for repository. I hope this is clear. Now let's check the next one, where we will make it prototype for both of the beans. Service is already prototype, and now let's make repository also as prototype here. Now again tell me what will happen. So again you need to comment me. So you can say there pp hyphen, then you can say me how many service, how many repository. Just pause the video and think it from your end once. So let's execute. So this time you see, for the service IMPL first bean got created, then it goes to repository, bean got created, then again we are auto wiring the owner service. So again owner service IMPL bean got created. Now when it is created again, within this you are again saying owner repository. So that's the reason that now it is not going to take the bean of already existing bean, and instead a new bean of repository will be created. So you see, two beans of service, two beans of repository have been created here because both of them are prototype each. And this output, I guess it is not going to matter much because service is still different only. So output will remain as 20 and 10 only. The reason is same. Service 1 is referring to first bean, service 2 is referring to second bean, and hence this value remains unchanged. Yeah. Because in repository we are not doing anything much, we are just printing the line. So making it prototype doesn't matters much in our scenario here. So that is the point, guys. And now let's move to the last scenario where service is going to become your singleton again. Now for this, one option is you just say like this, singleton. Okay. So one option is you can say it like this, or the simplest option is you just remove it. That's it. So you remove it like this. By default also it is going to be singleton only when you don't mention anything. Now you tell me again what will happen this time. So your service is singleton here, but repository is prototype. So tell me this time you need to say me sp, and then you comment how many service, how many repository. Let's check it out here. So I'm doing it again, and this time you see first service got created, then repository got created. Now again it came here. Now since service is singleton here, do you feel a new bean will be created? The answer is no. New bean for service will not get created because service is singleton only. Now for service, since the new bean didn't got created, that means it won't require a repository. Okay, getting my point? Since there is no new bean of service, it will never require a new bean of repository. So irrespective, your repository is prototype now, but only one bean of repository will get created because you never asked it. Earlier service bean was getting used, you never asked for the repository again, and hence no new bean of repository got created. So this is again magical. And now if you print as 20, so I hope it is clear that it will just say you 20 and 20 for both of them, because both the owner service 1 and owner service 2 are referring to the same bean only, that is one single service bean. So this is how this one is going to work. Now hence we have seen how this combination of singleton and prototype works, and generally it may happen that in interview they may ask you that what happens when the outer one is singleton, inner one is prototype. So you can consider that service is the outer one, because first of all this gets created and within it owner repository gets created. So owner repository is your internal one. So you can watch this video again if there is any doubt, and then you can tell me in the comments whether you were able to understood my point or not? If yes, then you know the things. You just need to like the video, share it with your friends, comment something so that we can increase our community, guys. And hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.